I'm Chahat Avasthi from Team Docplexus, covering the INSEAD Summit on Social Entrepreneurship. We have with us Anya Baum, founder and managing director of Keryx Group. We'll be talking about urbanization and hyperurbanization, challenges and solutions. Hi Anya.
Hi.
How are you?
Thank you. Very good. How are you?
I'm good too. Anya, can you tell us something about Keryx Group? What led to its inception? What is it that's addressing? What are the challenges?
At the Keryx Group, we work with local governments. And we work with local governments, especially in the social service sectors. In other words, we work with accessibility, which is making the urban life more accessible for the elderly, for children, for migrants, for refugees. We also try to work with many people that currently use orphans and provide childcare services. So a lot of social work, especially with local governments.
So, how does migration come into the picture and complicate the situation?
Migration means changing demographics, and it also means changing different population types within the city and also within the city outer limits, as it were. Migrants are part of the great suburbanization of the world today. A lot of them move from one suburb to another suburb. Some of these suburbs can be very difficult to class as cities themselves. They may have slum-like tendencies, slum-like characteristics. Other suburbs are very high-tech. They look like California, even here in India. So migrants contribute to this growing kind of city life that we have, which is spilling over from the cities.
Right. And your work brought you to India 3 years ago.
True. I was in India in 2015. I was invited by the EU standardization body to come to India to support standards in urbanization. We spoke 3 years ago about a new standard, which was called ISO 37120. It was the first so-called smart city standard. It had 100 indicators in 17 different themes. To help cities understand, local governments understand, and also the populations to help them understand what is expected from an urban life. Today we are developing more standards. In the next weeks we will be voting on standard 37122, which is about how cities are resilient to disasters or to changes. Very interesting topics.
Very interesting. We agree. So, in contrast to European cities, what's unique about Indian demographics and Indian cities?
Many things are unique about India, that's for sure. Two things about Indian cities is that you have two paradigms working at the same time. On one side, you have elements which are a bit of the preconditions for urbanization. For instance, you have cities or actually areas outside of the cities where people live, but they do not have a legal right to their properties. So there needs to be a way of making this official where they live, where their families have lived for many generations, in order to make them part of the city, make them citizens, part of the city, let's say. So this is one side in India. On the other side, you have people such as IT workers, which migrate between suburbs, and they live a middle-class life, basically, living outside of the city for most of their lives. So they're living outside of the city by their own choice, through their own jobs, actually, and they take a bit of city infrastructure into account, but they don't necessarily pay into the local city taxes. It's a different challenge for India. Yeah, there's two things that happen at once.
Right. So, so do you think some policy changes can help?
Sure. There are policy gaps, basically, that have to be filled up. Some of these policy gaps are those which I call creating the new middle class. There are needs the middle class needs to have, which perhaps previously these needs were taken care of by other family members or perhaps through a community, while the new middle class may not have a community to rely on. What am I speaking about exactly? Childcare. For instance, who takes care of the children when the mothers are at work, basically? Previously, it was the community. And you could always leave your child with an aunt, an uncle, a family member, and all this. But if you are in a foreign environment, if you're a migrant to a suburb, even if you're a middle-class migrant to a suburb, you don't have anybody who can take care of these children to create a world, a system of childcare, basically, which is safe, which is effective, which is trustworthy. This is one example. Also health insurance, accident insurance, all these kind of the world of the middle class has to become a reality for many of the migrants to make them more secure.
Do you think technology can solve some of these problems, make life affordable, convenient?
Yes.
For
Yes. Technology makes life convenient, makes life affordable, of course. But what's important also is to use technology to better understand what is happening on the ground, for instance. Speaking of migration, you will be able, it is interesting to use some sort of data capturing services to see exactly where are these populations. Sometimes, for instance, there's rural areas which are treated as rural areas, but in reality they have a strong urban characteristics. So it's important also to know where these people are living and where they move from, because there also is flows of population, and technology can capture this much better, much easier than, let's say, a census, which would be once every 5 years or once every 10 years.
So, how is Keryx Group making an impact here?
Okay, so we work with accessibility. In our world of accessibility, we work with city governments in creating a world which is livable for those amongst us which exist, which have the hardest time in working with the reality that they're given. For instance, handicapped people. For instance, the blind. Many people, for instance, think that the blind people, they will magically find their way from one point to another point. But these people need to have clear roads. They need to make sure that the sidewalks are the same size, so they understand this. They need to have on the ground a certain type of texture, basically, so their cane can figure it out. If they are, let's say, close to a highway or close to a road, there's a different way, a different topography of urban planning and urban life for people who use this, in which for people who are not blind, don't bother them that much, basically. It doesn't bother us that we have a different type of, let's say, covering on stairs, but it changes the entire livability of a city for the blind. Same thing for handicaps who are in a wheelchair. If on a wheelchair you cannot get to the metro station, you have no way of having any transportation available, or at least public transportation. So changing the world to make it more affordable, more livable, once again, for those amongst us.
So, we're all here participating at the ISEP Summit.
Yes.
So, how does it play a role in raising awareness on hyperurbanization, finding solutions? Do you think participants gain something other than knowing about what the challenges are?
Yeah. Okay, so yes, one important thing about the ISEP, first of all, the ISEP program and this entrepreneurship, is that it puts a focus on two things. One is impact, another one is scaling. So two very important issues. Scaling is if you create a business or if you create an idea, you have to know that you have to start employing people. These people that are employed, you have to train them. You have to create a reality which is beyond your single expertise, basically. You could be a one-person, orchestra, but you need to bring more people in because you can cover more people, you can give more out, you can have a bigger impact. The impact is the second very important element here in this conference and in this program. Impact is really what you do. Talking is never enough. But how often have you written letters to local governments? How often have you discussed this with local communities? Are you able to say that you have actually made an impact in the world that you work on, be it blind people, migrants, energy, consumption issues? This is the two largest elements which are here brought basically to the table.
Right. Thank you so much, Anya.
Thank you.
For having this discussion with us.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.